So I don't know about the others who are taking part, but I found this quite a difficult brief, actually. As it said, 10 ads that change the world. And I thought, oh, just being a typical creative, I'm going to challenge the brief. Because do ads really, have they really changed the world? Is that a bit arrogant of us to think so? And I think some ads have changed the way that brands talk to the world. I think some ads have changed people's worlds. But really, have they changed the world? So I found it quite hard. So the first, it's a campaign actually, not an ad, changed the world for, well, the way brands talk to the world was Avis. And back in 1963, they're having a really shit time. They were losing money, they were losing customers, and they were very definitely number 2 in the market. So number 2, not a great place to be, but actually they turned this horrible negative into a brilliant positive and came up with a campaign which was built around 3 little words, which is, we try harder. And I'm going to take you through the work now, and I'm going to read a little bit. Excuse my voice, because it's not great. So, here we go, first ad. Avis is only number 2 in rented cars, so why go with us? We try harder. When you're not the biggest, you have to. We just can't afford dirty ashtrays or half-empty gas tanks or worn wipers or unwashed cars or low tyres or anything less than seat adjusters that adjust, heaters that heat, defrosters that defrost. Obviously, the thing we try hardest for is just to be nice. Start you out right with a new car like a lively Super Talk Ford and a pleasant smile. To know, say, we get a good pastrami sandwich in Duluth. Why? Because we can't afford to take you for granted. Go with us next time. The line at our counter is shorter. And I think for anybody who's interested in copywriting, this is a masterclass of copywriting. That line at the end, the confidence, the line at our counter is shorter, which means you will get better service. Just to take you through some of the other ads. Avis can't afford to be nice, and you heard some of that in the copy before. I love this one. Avis needs you. You don't need Avis. Avis never forgets this. We're still a little hungry. We're only number 2 in rented cars. Customers aren't a dime a dozen to us. Sometimes when business is too good, they get the short end and aren't treated like customers anymore. Wouldn't you like the novel experience of walking up to a counter and not feel you're bothering somebody? Try it. Come to the Avis counter and rent a new, lively Super Talk Ford. Avis is only number 2 in rented cars, so we have to try harder to make our customers feel like customers. Our counters all have 2 sides, and we know which side our bread is buttered on. I think from in somewhere like America, where these big corporations were king, they were turning it around and saying, we're all about you, the customer. We're going to make ourselves better for you and put the customer first. Avis can't afford worn wipers. I mean, you'll get the idea. Avis can't afford dirty ashtrays. Oops, that's the next presentation. Didn't want to do that. I think it was a really bold move by Avis to do this, and funnily enough, they were very lucky to work with a brilliant agency called Daldane Bernbach, which most of you should know, hopefully, DDB. And I say lucky because they were challenging things at the time, and Dave knows this. He was out in the States when they were rocking the world of advertising. But brilliantly for them, they had a fantastic client, Bob Townsend, and between them, they thought they'd test the campaign. It was so bold, they thought they'd test it first. They tested it, it bombed. Everybody hated it, and Bob Townsend, the client, said, you know what, sod it. He probably didn't say those words, but sod it, I'm going to run it anyway, and it was a brilliant decision. Their market share went from 11% to 34% after the campaign. The company used the first ad as a manifesto and built the way they worked around it. And 1963 is 50 years ago, and they are still using that end line today on everything they do. It's just going to show 3 little words that turned a company around. So that's a brand who changed the way, an agency that changed the way that brands were marketed to the world. So that's where I sort of started. The next one. Anybody in the room hate needles? You put your hand up. Right. I mean, that's pretty bad news. Cameraman's just put his hand up. That's pretty bad news for us, but it's even worse news for 650,000 people in the world who are diagnosed with leukemia or lymphoma every year. Of those, there are a certain group who need bone marrow transplants, and only about 50% of those get them. The other half die. That's their only hope. And the reason for this is because people aren't registering because they think it's going to involve taking blood, it's going to be a load of hassle, and don't want to do that. So Droga 5, brilliant agency, got together with the bone marrow registry organisation, I should say, and came up with a way of getting people on that list that was so simple and so part of our everyday lives. It was absolute genius. And I'm going to play you a film because it's much better than me talking. Okay, bit of technology here.
What if we could turn a normal, everyday act into a chance to save a life? Introducing Help, I Want to Save a Life. A package of over-the-counter bandages that also doubles as a simple marrow donor registry kit. So the next time you cut yourself shaving or shuffling papers or making dinner and you reach for a box of bandages, you'll have a chance to save someone's life. You just put a couple of drops of blood on the swabs, toss it in the prepaid envelope, drop it in the mail, and that's it. You're a potential lifesaver. This simple idea brought together a pretty unlikely pair. Help Remedies, a pharmaceutical company, and DKMS, the world's largest marrow donor registry. And then something pretty amazing happened. The TED Conference chose it as one of their favorite ideas of the year, and even helped us launch it at this year's global conference. And since then, the whole world's helped us spread the word and share our story. And in just a few short months, sales of Help's bandages are already up more than 1,900%. But amongst all these sales figures and media impressions and YouTube hits, there's really only one statistic that matters. Thanks to this little pack of bandages, marrow registrations have nearly tripled. Who would have thought a few paper cuts could make a world of difference and actually save lives?
So Droga Fight, they could have just done an ad and just said, you know, X amount of people die if you don't sort of have a blood test and get on that register. They stopped and thought, hold on, let's look at the barrier, the human barrier that's stopping people helping, and turn that into a positive. So very much like the first campaign, looking at a negative and really switching it around and turning things on their head. So that's something to take away when you're working on your own campaigns. The next one, right, this is quite interesting. I don't know if you know, but Florida is key to winning the presidency of the United States. In the last 2 elections before, that's how George Bush won. He turned around the community there. They voted for him. Big problem for Barack Obama. The opposition ceded to a really big community out there, which was a Jewish elderly, that he was actually a Muslim. Obviously he's not, he's Christian. But this was ceded in and sort of turned that Jewish community against him. So again, this is another Droga 5 piece of work. And I'm not saying I'm their greatest fan. I'm not, but they happen to do brilliant work. They looked at the audience, thought, right, we've got these Jewish elderly people. They're not going to be turned around. Who will they listen to? So they talked to them via their grandchildren. They knew if their grandchildren helped persuade them, they would actually listen. And they called this the Great Schlep. And as that says, that means to drag yourself. They did a massive call to action on a website. They got the grandchildren, they asked the grandchildren just to get on a plane, get their asses over there, talk to the grandparents, and try and turn them around. They also enlisted the help of Sarah Silverman, the brilliant American comedian, and she had a film on the website which went nuts in the States and got on daytime TV and the news and helped get the message across. I've got a small clip of it here to show you, but I'd urge you to have a look at it when you get home because it is indeed hilarious.
If you knew that visiting your grandparents could change the world, would you do it? Of course you would. You'd have to be a douche nozzle not to. Hey, it's Sarah. Silverman. If Barack Obama doesn't become the next president of the United States, I'm going to blame the Jews.
It's great, honestly.
I am. And I know you're saying like, oh my God, Sarah, I can't believe you're saying this. Jews are the most liberal,
just listen to it, honestly. Just picture her
civil
talking,
rightsy people there are. Yes, that's true. But you're forgetting a whole large group of Jews that are not that way, and they go by several aliases.
Right, okay. Watch it when you get home. It is brilliant. Slightly worrying. Oh, God, the first one. But they did actually get their asses over to their grandparents. They did talk to them, and they turned round 320,000, I think that's right, we'll see the figure in a minute, people who voted for him, and this was the result.
Florida, you're moving up. I guess Sarah Silverman's making her mark down there with the Schlep.
Decision 2008 election night.
Florida has gone for Senator Obama.
He ran up some bigger than expected margins in South Florida.
He won by 3 points, 51% to 48%.
You are looking at the 44th President of the United States, a seismic shift in American politics.
Technology, basically, he won. So I guess, just to do a full circle, and as I said about challenging the brief, I don't think ads can change the world, but that ad, that idea has elected someone who possibly can, and that's the power of what we do. So just take that away with you.